establishment got their wish and put the great, highly experienced foreign policy genius Joe Biden into office. Chaos, calamity, weakness wherever you look. Chaos at the border as criminals and smugglers are emboldened. Chaos in the Middle East as Iran is emboldened. Chaos in the Far East as China is emboldened. And of course, unfolding right before our eyes, the worst chaos, the biggest calamity, the most embarrassing weakness of all, the abject humiliation of Biden's Afghan debacle. Where is Biden anyway, as the reputation of his regime and America's standing in the world collapses around him? Instead of leading, instead of helping, instead of directing some kind of effort, anything, to get Americans and our allies out, to advance our interests, to salvage something from the wreckage of his policies, Biden's busy playing politics, sitting in his bunker, blaming everyone but himself for this fiasco. It's Trump's fault, he says. He negotiated a bad deal. My hands were tied. Oh, Biden's hands were tied, were they? Funny how they weren't tied when he totally reversed Trump's Iran policy, or his border policy, or his energy policy, or just about every other Trump policy Biden set about reversing the minute he was inaugurated. But no, just this one. Afghanistan, absolutely impossible to reverse. Nothing I could do. Sorry. What a joke. Now they're out trying to blame the intelligence agencies, throwing them under the bus. Listen to Biden lapdog, Congresswoman Jackie Speer, this morning.
This is a crisis of untold proportions. This is an intelligence failure. We underestimated the Taliban and overestimated the resolve of the Afghan army.
This is a crucial point and one we all need to dig into. They're trying to pretend that the intelligence agencies gave them the all clear to go ahead with a rushed retreat.
The intelligence community has assessed that the Afghan government will likely collapse.
That is not true.
Can you please clarify what they have told you about whether that will happen or not?
That is not true. They did not reach that conclusion.
But hang on a second, that's not what others who were briefed on the intelligence say. Here's Congressman Michael McCall, ranking member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, today.
The strength of the Taliban, and Jake, they didn't listen to the intelligence community, because every time I got an IC briefing assessment, it was probably the grimmest assessment I've ever heard on Afghanistan.
So let's just be very clear what's going on here. This is shaping up to be a scandal of Iraq WMD proportions. Biden and the Democrats are blaming the intelligence for this disaster. They never told us this could happen. They said it would be fine if we pulled out overnight. There's no way the Taliban could take over. But based on what Michael McCall is saying about the intelligence, Biden is lying. So is Congresswoman Jackie Speer. So are all the Democrats who are trying to shift blame onto the intelligence agencies. Let's play the crucial tape one more time.
The intelligence community has assessed that the Afghan government will likely collapse.
That is not true.
Can you please clarify what they have told you about whether that will happen or not?
That is not true. They did not reach that conclusion.
Right, that was July the 8th. This is what every so-called journalist in Washington should be focused on finding out. What exactly was Biden told by the intelligence agencies, and did he lie about it in that July 8th press conference? Biden's blaming the intelligence, he's blaming Trump. Next he'll be blaming the Delta variant for his Afghan disaster, or people who don't wear masks, or racism. Anything and anyone except the person who's actually responsible, himself. Yes, Trump wanted to end the Afghan war and bring our troops home, but he gave the Taliban conditions and threatened consequences if they broke them. As Iran's terror chief Qasem Soleimani found out, those were no idle threats. Instead, from Biden, we got nothing but weakness and ineptitude in pursuit of a transparently political deadline of getting out by September the 11th. The very fact that he just had to send another 5,000 troops back in shows how little proper planning went into getting them out. But Biden's desperate attempts to shift blame aren't fooling anyone, even his own side. Here's Ryan Crocker, who was handpicked by Obama to be America's ambassador in Kabul when, let's remember, Biden was vice president.
It is beyond disingenuous for the president to say now we've made all these inputs and it's up to them to fight for their own country, when he embraced the process and he owns it lock, stock, and barrel, President Trump's process, guaranteeing that the government will probably not survive.
He said in another interview, quote, I'm left with some grave questions in my mind about Biden's, ability to lead our nation as commander-in-chief, to have read this so wrong, or even worse, to have understood what was likely to happen and not care. Biden's attempts to avoid accountability and responsibility are truly shameful. But there's something even worse. The disgusting spectacle of the authors of 2 decades of American woe, 2 decades of death and destruction, somehow trying to extract some sick vindication from all this. See, we were right all along. We need more troops over there. The war must go on forever, insist the neocon lunatics. The media try and blame Trump, but no one points out that if there's one president and one administration that really deserves to be held accountable for the catastrophe of Afghanistan, it's George W. Bush, who squandered the world's goodwill over 9/11, diverting the focus from legitimate intervention in pursuit of al-Qaeda and instead lying to take us to war in Iraq. But of course, the media won't say anything against Bush because he hates Trump, so they love him. And the brazen neocons keep going like a bunch of bloodthirsty zombies. We saw it just this morning, the dark queen of them all, Liz Cheney, this woman who sacrificed her own sister for her political career, now touring the TV studios to exploit America's humiliation in pursuit of her own deranged personal vendetta. How dare they, after all they've done to this country and the world, still, after all these years, all this evidence of their twisted ideologies, utter failure, they want more troops, more equipment, more foreign adventures, always more war. We know why, because war is the Cheney family business, fought by other people's children for their personal gain.